You're right there guys, this is Dale of Wombat Wargaming, and I want to talk about an event I went to last weekend that pitched a really good idea for a kill team tournament. Turn up, your fee is a kill team box that you buy. You just buy a box of minis, you build it on the day, you play with what you bought, and if you win the event, you win the box of minis. So the event was held at Distinct Gaming in Belper, a very local place to me. It was very small scale. This isn't like a grand tournament or anything we're talking about. This is like a local place that just had a really good idea that I wanted to share. And it can be quite hard to find if you're going there. We actually did an entire lap around the place before we actually found the entrance to it. So I've just thrown up a little map that centres. It's on Wellington Court, halfway between the car park and Poundland. So yeah, you're going that way, down the main street. But yeah, anyway. Irrelevant for the vast majority of people that don't live locally to Belper. But I just really love this idea, and I think what it gave me was a sense that this could be something that could be used to advance like Kill Team as a hobby, to like get people in, to get the people that are in invested even more, and just enhance the scene in general. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it today. So obviously there is the incentive of get a kill team for free, which I think pretty much anyone can get on board with. Like the chance of going in and just winning something that usually costs you like 20-30 quid, yeah, who wouldn't be up for that? But also it was really intriguing to me because it forces you to go in blind, because no one, well, some people might, but the vast majority I think of us would not want to buy stuff we already have that we know works. You'd want to get something new and just try it out and see what it's like. So it essentially forced you to go in blind, like, and just not play with the team you've had any time to play test or practice with or know how they work or anything. And that just added just a layer of intrigue and mystery to it. It's just like, ooh, this could be quite fun actually, yeah. So let's have a chat about what the event was like, how the games went, because not knowing how my team played made them quite interesting for me, and what I think we can take away from this event, and if we could, and how we would apply this to Kill Team as a whole, just to see if any other local hobby stores might want to pick this up as an idea and run these sort of events, because I think it could really work for all parties involved. So the first question I had to ask myself for this event was, what do I want to bring? Because I invested quite heavily into the last edition of Kill Team, I actually have a lot of potential factions I could draw on already that I already own, which just flat eliminated them for me for this event. I don't want to double up on stuff I've already got. Why would I? So that ruled out immediately Guardsmen, Commandos, Astartes, Chaos Marines of literally every flavour, Admech, Gene Stealer Cults, got a little bit of Necrons, and Tau, so that was just a flat no. Yes, I do have a little bit of the Necrons, but I'm lacking Death Marks and Immortals, so I could have gone with those, and I'm absolutely chomping at the bit to get my hands on some Sisters of Battle, but I didn't go with either of those because I know they're going to be coming out in one of the upcoming Imperium magazine issues soon. So why would I buy those now when, if I just be a bit patient and wait for the near future, I can get them at a massively discounted price? So that was a no on those. I could have gone Deathwatch or Grey Knights, but honestly I'm kind of waiting for the inevitable primarisation of those two factions, so I don't want to dive into a box that I think could be outdated in like 3-4 years. So that was a no on them. What it essentially left me with, the choice, was Eldari, Drukhari, Harlequins, Kroot, no. Talons of the Emperor were actually flat out forbidden from this event, purely because it was created before the FAQ was released, and I think just getting a box of Custodies would be too easy to win with, especially when people are running with unoptimized teams, and it's quite an expensive box, so it'd be an expensive one for the gaming place to give away, so no Custodies. Also, Tyranids were a potential option as well, so just go through those potential ones and why I arrived at the faction I did. So my potential options, I also ruled out Chaos Demons. I don't have any of those, but you need like 4 boxes to get the complete range. And yeah, 1 box could work, but I didn't want to limit myself to just melee, so that was shelved as an idea. Harlequins, you actually need 2 boxes to run those as a kill team now. It used to be in the last edition you could get away with 1, now you have 8, but the box has only 6 in it, so no, that was a 2-box team. Same for Tyranids. I really like the sound of Tyranids this edition, but you need 2 more Gene Stealers to just run a pure Gene Stealers team based on the 1 box, so that would be a 2-box, and also Warriors on the side is a good option, so again, 2-box team, no. And I really don't care for the current Eldari range. It is so old. Like, Craft World Eldar, oh boy, they really need a refresh. So, nah, that was a no for me. Again, I'm hoping they do that in the near future. I don't know if they will, but yeah, I didn't much care for how they looked. They looked a bit too old for me. So that settled me on Drukhari, and specifically Cabalites. Yes, I could have gone Witches, but I figured Cabalites would be a bit more flexible with just one box. Because with those you could take 2 gunners. It actually says in the compendium that you have 1 standard special weapon gunner per fire team if you take 2 fire teams of Cabalites, and then you've got the heavy gunner as well, which is potentially a Dark Lance or a Splinter Cannon, and of course your leader can have a blast pistol, so I'm looking at potentially 3 AP2 weapons in that team, so like, ooh, that sounds nice. Yeah, quite like the sound of that. Plus I do like the sculpts of them. They're relatively modern, like early 2010s I think that range refresh was done. And I didn't have them, so yeah, no, Drukhari, let's go. On the day itself then, so after doing our quick lap around Belper trying to find the entrance to the street for the place, we turned up and they gave us the box that we ordered. I'd asked them to put aside a box of Cabalite Warriors for me a week in advance. They didn't charge me on the day at the start of it. They said we'll put it on a tab, and depending on who wins or not, we'll charge you at the end of the event for it. Cool. So I had my box of Cabalites in hand. And here is the first point of improvement for the event. If we hadn't brought our own glue and snips, we would have been in real trouble. Like, we did, thankfully, so we're actually alright with it, but my plastic glue actually almost ran out halfway through, so the guys who were organising it had to do an emergency trip out just to get some super glue for everything else, just in case. So, yeah, I think that was a teeny bit of an oversight there. I was looking back at the event thing as well, and there was no like warning saying you needed to bring your own. I'm guessing it was assumed, but yeah, just that clarification of either A, bring your own stuff, or B, just provide it for the players on the day, definitely needed when you're asking them to turn up and do a build as part of the game event. Now, not gonna lie, building the actual construction of Warhammer miniatures is my favourite part of the process, like snipping them out, gluing together, love it. I have been somewhat spoiled in recent months, however, working on like Easy Build Primaris and the new Necron range with like all the little holes that just pop into with that, and forgetting how small and fiddly like standard people-sized miniatures are compared to like Primaris Marines. Oh boy, that was a bit of a struggle for me, especially when you had the implied sense of urgency, because you know that the longer you take to build these things, the less gaming time you may potentially have. So there was a little bit of pressure in there that was just in the little back of the mind there that, oh god, I need to get these done now, I need to get them quick. They came out alright in the end, but I'm thinking that if you were a perfectionist on the day, like, you probably wouldn't have been too happy about that, and like, no one was actually rushing us, I need to clarify that. But you know, you just know in yourself that you're cutting into your own game time here, so you want to get them done as fast as possible. Now, my solution to that potential issue would be to let people buy the box and pick it up like a week or two or however in advance, but when they pick it up, like if they want to, just write down what they're using and who they are at the time, so that when the event actually turns around, they have to use some of the things they bought. So even if it's just 1 fire team out of 2, they still get some of the things they did actually buy as part of that. So just having that option, because yeah, I do love the idea of turning up and building on the day, but I appreciate that might not be for everyone. So if they wanted that prep time, having that option would really help people in future events, I think. So after almost running out of plastic glue, I finally managed to assemble my 10 Cabalite Warriors in glorious grey plastic. So yeah, we're ready to go. So how did the games themselves go then with this untried and untested and literally just built now team? So first match of the day was up against a team of 6 Heretic Starties. Had a leader with a plasma pistol and power fist, plasma gun, missile launcher, a banner bearer with a bolt gun, and the other 2 were bolt pistol chainsword variants. Because I was running 2 Cabalite teams, I was able to bring in 2 gunners, one with a shredder, one with a blaster, and the heavy gunner with a Dark Lance. I passed up the Splinter Cannon because I was kind of hoping that the AP2 would be a bit more useful against the Starties. Obviously my leader had the blast pistol and power weapon. I like the idea of Brutal on the Agonizer, but I think that really happens and helps high wound models more, especially in melee. Because, yeah, sure, Brutal sounds nice that you can't parry, they can't parry your attacks unless on crits, but if you have a low pool of health, doesn't really matter. Like, they'll probably just focus on damage and kill you quick anyway. So I was thinking, okay, power weapon, get more crits out to begin with, deal out more damage total. So I'd managed to win the attacker-defender roll-off, and seeing how most of the Chaos Space Marines had been placed on conceal, with the glaring exception of his plasma gun, I figured that I could go on engage orders for my gunners and conceal for everyone else, as I was expecting them to pick the scouting option that let them flip an order, and I didn't much fancy taking a frag missile to the face. Despite getting initiative, I wasn't quite able to kill his plasma gunner with the first shot with the Dark Lance, and I lost my blaster gunner shortly afterwards. So I think my mistake this game was sending my various gunners out first, where if I sent the scrubs out first to soften up the Marines and then brought in the gunners to finish them off, maybe I could have done a bit more damage throughout the match. But as soon as the Marines got into melee range, the game was a foregone conclusion, and I had to focus on just scoring points and surviving. The game ended up as 8-9 to the Astartes. It was closer than I was fearing it would be, and I was just an inch out of scoring the one secondary point that would have resulted in the game of a draw, but I just didn't have enough movement to make it happen. So my second game was against Admech, and it was a mix of Rangers and Vanguard. Like, the Rangers had the special weapons and the Vanguard had their rad rifles. Now, this game turned out to be harder than I was actually hoping it would be. Surprise! It turns out facing a gun line of arc rifles, plasma calibers, galvanic rifles, all that Admech shooting fun times is not as pleasant to be on the receiving end as you might otherwise think it is. It's actually quite difficult to defend against on turn 1, especially when the Drukhari can't activate their 6-up Feel No Pain until at least turn 2. It's a strategic ploy, you have to do it at the start of the turn, and the qualification is that at least one operative is dead, regardless of whether it's friendly or enemy, so you're not getting that turn 1. I lost 4 Cabalites on that turn 1, and without too much to show for it in return. I managed to wound a lot of the Skitarii, sure, but no KIAs. Weirdly, however, losing most of my basic scrubs on the beginning of turn 1 meant that I was able to get to Overwatch much faster, and therefore able to fire my special weapons again in the same turn. So I was able to eliminate his arc rifle at the end of that turn and get his plasma gunner down to 1 wound left. And that plasma gunner was something of a hero for the match. He just kept overcharging that plasma gunner. He was on 1 wound left, he really had nothing to lose. But he refused to die from gets hot from there. Like, there was only one instance he did actually roll a 1 and then a quick command reroll fixed that. So yeah, well done Plasma Gunner. Clearly his weapon had been blessed by the Omnissiah. The real turning point, however, was when I got initiative for turn 2, killed his leader with my Splinter Cannon, and because I had a guy within Pentagon of the leader when he died, I could trigger Power from Pain, which made him have +1 APL and shoot twice. So I could then grenade with a plasma grenade 2 Skitarii, shoot a 3rd one, and charge a 4th one so that I could lock him in combat to prevent him scoring a secondary objective. From that point on, with a little help from Inure to Suffering and Play on the Weak, giving me both a 6-up Feel No Pain and re-rolling 2 dice if the target is half wounds or less, the Cabalites managed to mop up the Skitarii fairly well, winning with 15 points overall. So yeah, the key point for that one was when I was able to trigger Power from Pain. It is a very situational ability. You need to be close to a target when the target dies, but what it allows you to do then is you can activate the guy who's close to him who hasn't been yet. So when the Splinter Cannon took out the leader, my guy on the ground with his plasma grenade was close enough to activate, get 2 in a blast, shoot 1, charge 1. He just managed to take up the team apart at that point. That was the moment the game turned. For that first turn, I was really concerned, like losing almost half my team almost immediately. I was like, oh god, this isn't going well, is it? But yeah, getting me to Overwatch quicker, which meant I could fire my special weapons twice and triggering that Power from Pain, that's what got that game for me. So the third and final game of the day was against Craftworld Eldari, and it was just a pure Guardian team, and it was unfortunately a whitewash. The game began and ended with the very first shot. I'd managed to win initiative, and his heavy weapons operator was in clear line of sight to my Splinter Cannon and was too far away from cover to be obscured by his conceal order. So yeah, that was a first kill straight from the off, which meant that his heavy weapons platform was inoperable for the entirety of the game. Now, why that heavy weapons operator wasn't put directly behind his cannon, which would have meant his conceal would work and I'd have to burn through the cannon, I don't know. But yeah, that was his one and only special weapon. Like, the rest of the team is just armed with shuriken catapults and a couple of plasma grenades from equipment. Yeah, it wasn't really a contest from there, unfortunately. I'd have to put Eldar Guardians as one of the most underpowered teams out there. Shuriken catapults just don't stand up as well as splinter rifles, and the fact that the weapons platform can only be controlled by one guy and becomes dead weight the instant it loses its operator is pretty unfair, to be honest. It makes no sense to me at all why another Guardian couldn't just run across and take over. Adding the fact they get no special weapons at all, this team has been really hard done to. In the end, the craft worlders have been wiped out by turn 2, and the last 2 turns were just spent with me maxing the primary and all my secondary objectives. So at the end of the event, the final standings were Admech in 4th place, receiving the wooden spoon, Craft World's Eldar in 3rd place, Drukhari in 2nd, and the Heretic Astartes taking it for the win, as they'd won all 3 of their games. If it had been pure points, I think I could have snagged it, but because I got that 1 loss and 2 wins, it went straight to the Heretic Astartes. Now, going back to that first game, if I was literally an inch out of getting my retrieve objective from Recon, and if I'd have just got that point, that would have tied that game, and if it had tied the game, I would have won on points overall, but didn't quite get it, just didn't have enough movement, even with Fleet, with the add a dash to your move value when you move with it. Oh, so close. So close, but so far. But I did win this very lovely silver coin that can go with the collection from the other ones from last edition, so always nice to have another one of those, and it was a very fun event overall regardless. So, despite running a unoptimised team of Drukhari, I think they're probably designed to be run with 5 Cabalites, 5 Witches, because then you get a whole host of special weapons, and the Witches can pick up the slack in the melee department, and you can get just a whole lot of stuff with special rules. I do think Drukhari made quite a good showing regardless. Very squishy, especially on turn 1. Usually with turn 1 I'm trying to maximise damage output and just get my opponent's special weapons done and out of the fight. But with Drukhari I think you need to be a bit sneaky with that if you actually want to survive the entire match. Because purely you don't get your 6-up Feel No Pain ability until at least turn 2. The requirement of that is for the strategic ploy, at least 1 operative must be dead. Whether it's friendly or not, who cares, but that means you flat out aren't getting it on turn 1. So for that first turn, it's probably a good idea to just focus on damage control, like stay on conceal probably, try and get as many objectives as possible and get yourselves in good firing positions, because 2 APL, yes, you can use Fleet to go further, so you're getting a free dash, so effectively you are moving, dashing and shooting, so that's 3 APL, or just move, dash and grab an objective. But it's not the same thing. It's close, but it's not a good substitute. Often I found myself in a situation where I could either run up far and get a really good shot off, or run up far and grab an objective. I couldn't do both. And that meant that either I managed to shoot down a target but miss a vital victory point, or I could run up and grab the objective and then immediately get killed for my troubles. Yeah, they're a very squishy team. And yeah, I think turn 1's a bit of a wash for Drukhari. Just keep it low, keep it safe, but when turn 2 comes along, then you've probably wounded some of your opponent's models, so you can proc both Inure to Suffering and Prey on the Weak, especially. Getting those 2 dice to reroll against a wounded target is exceptionally nice, because it means your Splinter Rifles are actually doing something. So you get your special weapons to soften them up, if not kill a target outright, and then you can get the Splinter Rifles to finish them up. So yeah, a very powerful little team, honestly. Squishy, like, and 2 APL is, it ain't fun to deal with, but you have to make some tough choices with that. But I do like Drukhari as a faction, actually, and I'm quite looking forward to playing some more of them. So overall then, I did really enjoy the event. Yes, it is obviously a very small scale thing, like the player numbers were really quite low as a very local affair, but I think this format could be extrapolated and easily applied to anywhere. Like if your gaming store has some kill team and they want to expand the scene, I think this could really help them as an idea. Which is why I want to talk about it now, because I think it was, oh yeah, it was a very enticing idea. Not one that's flawless, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but the pros are quite easy to see. First off, business standpoint, it's a very easy pitch to give to a gaming store because of the entry price of a box of miniatures. So as a store, you are literally selling, like, to almost all of your players a box of miniatures that you otherwise wouldn't have done anyway. So it does make a lot of sense in that regard. As a player as well, though, it's a very interesting puzzle to wrap your head around, because it's not just that you can turn up with the most heavily optimised team that you know will win and here's your previous battle plan. No, you're using something new. You're going in blind. And it's like trying to go on the fly, like, okay, how does this team work? What do they do? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What do I have to watch out for? What situations do I need to engineer for them to succeed? And yeah, if you just want like some freshness to Kill Team and you want to try something new, I think this is a really good thing for enticing existing members of Kill Team. Couple of downsides to it as an event idea, however. Okay, so compared to some day events like the Warhammer World is the obvious go-to point, well obviously that's a way more professional event and on a larger scale. But asking at least 20 quid, probably 30 of each of your participants, now that's a bit of a hard sell. Like, if they were planning on buying, like, some stuff anyway, then sure, it's an easy proposition, but it can be a touch on the expensive side for people, so I can see how that's not something that most people might like. Like, they might want an easier, cheaper entry point on there. So, definitely not something that I think you could run, like, on a weekly or even monthly basis. Like, this is probably a once or twice a year max event. Any more than that, you're probably just going to exhaust your local player base because they don't want to spend any more money on it because they've got everything, and it's cost them a lot in the process. Also, I don't think it's going to be as appealing to beginner players as I initially thought. Because as a beginner player, you're not going to be confident, like, in yourself. You're not going to know the systems, and you're not going to want to sink a significant amount of money into an event where you don't know you're going to do well. Like, take out of the equation the whole win it, like, and get it for free. It's still a fair amount of money, and if you're going in and you're not confident in your own abilities, then you're going to think, well, I have no chance of winning it anyway, so I'm basically just paying that as an entry fee. And that can be quite off-putting for some, like, just pure beginners. So I think if you wanted to attract specifically beginner players to Kill Team, it'd probably be better to have existing teams that they can loan and use for that sort of tournament event to try and get beginners in. This actual one of Win the Kill Team probably isn't the best thing for getting beginners in. What I think it'd be great in, however, is getting more experienced players to diverge and just get things they wouldn't usually get out of their comfort zone, try something new. And, oh my days. Right, if you're a competitive player and you want to perform well, you actually want to do competitive events, but you are sick to death of going up against people that have learned their faction inside out. They have a solid battle plan, they are well practiced, well drilled, they know exactly what they need to do in order to win. This event is really appealing to you because they can't do that. They can't do that anymore. You can't come up against someone that has, like, put in all the work and the effort to learn their team and get a battle plan going because they've never done it before, they've never used it. So there's no situation of, yes, here's the veteran player of 2-3 years and here's his complete refined list that just smashes everything in front of it. No, he can't bring that. He's got to do something new. So he's got to think on his feet. And that breath of fresh air might just be what draws some more casual Kill Team players into the competitive scene. So that's my thoughts on the Distinct Gaming and Belper's Kill Team event, where you could go in and win your Kill Team if you won the event for free. And again, I love this idea. I really do. Like, as mentioned, I don't think it's one you could do more than maybe twice a year, but it's got a real pull to it as a concept. And I do think this sort of thing could really enhance the Kill Team scene and just get existing players to diversify and just get some more people into playing competitively. I just think it's a really neat idea, honestly, and I'd like to see it elsewhere. Like, because if more people and places were running these sorts of events, I'd probably try and go a bit further afield to participate, because I do love going into competitive events and, like, seeing this sort of thing and having the additional challenge of having to work on the fly and come up with your own stuff then and there, and also not having the high object amount of the local players who have just refined their list to an absolute pure destroys all format. Like, it makes it achievable for anyone, really. Anyone could go up and just actually take the win there. It wouldn't necessarily be the most well-drilled, well-versed and experienced player that actually takes the win there. So I really like these sort of events as a concept. But what do you think? Like, do you think this is something that could be feasible for other gaming stores to take on as an idea and run these events? Like, have you got any of your own thoughts or ways you think this could be better, or do you just think it's a non-starter? Well, let me know down in the comments. I'd be very eager to have a discussion with you. And until next time, this has been Dale of Wombat Wargaming.